Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We have an amazing, fantastic show this week with 3 brand new reviews, 2 new in theaters, and 1 now available to stream. This week on the show, he's a superhero whether he likes it or not in Blue Beetle. Watch Stacey Friedman's Bat Mitzvah plans unravel in the new Happy Madison Netflix original, You Were So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah. And finally, you have seen him on a boat, a big rig, a train, a plane, and now Liam Neeson is back in a car. In the new thriller, Retribution. We've got a lot to cover this week, so ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch, a roar and a burst of flame.
The Movie Wire podcast.
You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
A bank executive receives a bomb threat while driving his children to school. That his car will explode if they stop and attempt to get out. In another Liam Neeson thriller, Retribution.
Are you going to answer that?
It's not mine.
Hello, Matt.
Sorry, who is this?
There is a bomb under your seat. If you... Do I have your attention?
Did I do something to you?
You sound so guilty.
What do you want?
Drive to this location.
Honey, something's happened. There's a man who has put a bomb in the car. Under our seats, there are pressure triggers. We can't get out. The car will explode. We're here.
Listen very carefully, or I kill you. Open the glove box. Shoot him.
Why are you doing this? What have I ever done to you?
Dad!
His life or yours.
Matt, I'm your best friend.
You're a murderer now, Matt.
You think I'm the bomber?
Well, I guess you've had a tough day. I know that you lost a lot of money for your clients who invested in your fund. A lot of people are worried about you. You got everybody's attention, Matt.
He is still out there. If you can find him, I will.
I'm in control here.
No, you're not. You hurt my daughter, you son of a bitch. I will kill you. What's it gonna be?
Drive.
Okay, I have to say it. I have to get it off my chest, and I have to say enough is enough with these Liam Neeson transportation thriller movies. I get it, he's getting older, and it comes to the point where now his thrillers now consist of him sitting down in a car for 90 minutes. And during this 90 minutes, we feel like we're in the backseat of a car listening to an Uber driver tell me his life story. The dialogue here is just bland, generic, and uninteresting, while Liam Neeson gives the same performance that we have seen him in every single thriller that he has been in. We have seen Liam Neeson in a big rig, a boat, a plane, and a train. Liam Neeson is starting to sound like an adult live-action Dr. Seuss book. And I'm sure it would read like this. Liam Neeson has been on a boat, a train, and now a car. Oh god, this is going to be bad. Liam Neeson takes us to dumb movie land. With every movie, we embark on a dare, as his generic thriller movies fill the air. But some may go to these movies quite giddy. The plot's outrageous, far-fetched, and shitty. Yet with each scene and each repetitive chase, Liam Neeson injects them with the same style and grace. His gravelly voice, commanding and strong, makes me think him making this movie was quite wrong. Though the storylines may seem quite dumb, Liam Neeson's new movie leaves us more stupid and numb. So let us cheer for the cinematic transportation thriller to be over, because by the time the credits rolled, my head felt like I had a hangover. I swear in the next few years, studios are going to start running out of ideas of transportation, and they're going to end up sticking Liam Neeson in the Dumbo ride at Disneyland. Now, this is the type of movie that just makes me angry for the mere fact it has straight to streaming written all over it. And that's not to say that this would have made the film better, but it would have made it easier for me to shout at the screen on how frustratedly stupid this movie was. The premise to Retribution is pretty straightforward. Liam Neeson plays Matt Turner, a mentally uninvolved father and bank executive, whose morning duty is to drive his kids to school. We have older son Zach, played by Jack Champion, and the youngest, Emily, played by Lily Aspel. Neeson attempts to drive his kids to school until a mysterious phone call informs him that there is a bomb under his seat, and if anybody leaves the car or calls the police, he will set the bomb off. What makes this movie so frustrating is how idiotic and dumb each and every character is. Writers Alberto Marini, who at some point some of you might know from a generic movie you may have put on after midnight on a streaming service to put you to sleep. Marini's entire film resume is full of generic films, just like this one. And then we have Christopher Salmanpour, in which this is his first major motion picture. This goes to show this should have followed Marini's previous trend and just should have been dumped into streaming platforms. These two writers have nothing interesting or exciting to say, and we can tell they just shot from the hip when it comes to an attempt at creating a twist ending that we could really care less about. Because we have no interesting characters, we have very little screen time with anybody other than Liam Neeson and his kids. And even to this point, it's not interesting because we have seen Liam Neeson play this character numerous times before, but only this time his character does a lot of dumb things. Marini and Salmanpour are completely visionless and lazy when it comes to character progression and utilizing other characters to help support the progression of the story and not just rely on this mysterious caller, who in his dialogue doesn't add any mystery whatsoever. There's no curiosity to this character, there's no sense of danger, because the movie doesn't add any depth or any information on who this caller could be. We're not playing the guessing game on who this guy is, because the dialogue doesn't support any kind of curiosity or mystery. Instead, we get stuck with these characters that have noticeable holes and flaws in the way they were written, especially in scenes where it's supposed to build suspense and curiosity. The only thing this movie builds and creates is a lot of these moments that just make us go, oh, come on. We have a moment in the film where we have our young Emily, a child who in the very beginning of the film was fighting with her older brother, who slammed the door in her face and was complaining that he hurt her finger. Now fast forward in the movie to a scene where she literally has a big shard of glass sticking from her leg, where Liam Neeson asks if she's okay, and her reply is, yeah, I'm okay. Like she's looking at a stuffed animal on her lap, but it's a huge damn shard of glass sticking straight up from her leg. Now we have other scenes of random car chases that literally feel thrown in to push this movie to the 90-minute mark. And the supporting cast feels this way too, where it just feels like these characters are just thrown in just because. Especially police officer Angela Brickman, played by the very talented Noma Duemzi, who's a very talented actress, but she is completely underutilized here. Her character could have been the one to really build the stakes, or at least be one likable character in this movie. Dumweni's character is the only one that hints around some sort of motivation, but that's not because of the writing, it's because of Dumwenzi's performance. Now, the film was directed by Nimran Antel, who must have lost a bet or owed money to someone to make this movie. Antel is responsible for 2010's Predators, 2007's Vacancy, 2003's Control, along with projects such as Wayward Pines and Stranger Things. And it's not so much that the direction is horrible here, it's what we would expect from a film like this. And I wouldn't expect Antel to turn crap into gold, but when it comes to the lack of attention to detail that adds to the mile-high pile of unbelievability. It just seems like he ignores it and just moves along to get this movie over with. Now, for a movie that surrounds itself around phone calls, what just killed me is the fact that Liam Neeson literally hangs up on everybody. It doesn't matter who it is, not just our mysterious bomber, but everybody. Every character isn't safe from an overdramatic hang-up from Liam Neeson. Whether it's his wife, boss, clients, or a bomber, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are on the phone with Liam Neeson at one point, you will have your ass hung up on. To the point that was the only motivation I could guess in this movie on why somebody would place a bomb under his seat, because the film gives us nothing else to challenge us or to guess on, other than just being hung up on by Liam Neeson. It really would have been a better twist just to hear Liam Neeson say the words, "bye" or "talk to you later," before ending a phone call. But instead, I found it more entertaining in this movie to just count how many times Liam Neeson hangs up on people. This is just one of the many flaws and attention to details I can give away without adding anything more to ruin the plot of the film. For those that do want to go see it, and more power to you. But trust me, there is a lot, and when we get to the climax, it is as expected for a movie that puts little to no work in the build of it. Retribution is Liam Neeson's most idiotic thriller to date. Where its intent is to be a thriller, there is just so many ludicrous moments it becomes more of a comedy. This is a movie that just suffers from lazy writing and poor attention to details. It's a generic, forgettable attempt to be something that it's not, but we can tell the intent was to have Liam Neeson drive this movie completely. And even those that go see another transportation thriller with Liam Neeson will most likely probably be disappointed with this movie. I'm giving Retribution a solid 1 star.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews on previous episodes for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now. Now available, A Legend Will Face His Destiny in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I wish we could have turned the dial the other way in hopes of a better movie. Dial of Destiny received 2 stars. The Legend of Dracula is Born, in a beautiful to look at, but the story should have stayed at sea. In The Last Voyage of the Demeter, receiving 2.5 stars. It's pretty awkward and not a love story in the new comedy, No Hard Feelings, which actually did have some feelings, receiving 3 stars. And finally, Miles Morales is back and catapults across the multiverse in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was a visually beautiful and a swinging good time, receiving 3 stars. Make sure you follow up on those reviews, and while you do not forget to hit follow or subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Now, as some of you have heard on my show, here in the Seattle area, we just had open enrollment in our Snohomish Film Festival, and I had a lot of fun helping to judge all the submissions, but sadly submission is now officially closed. I just want to say thank you to all those that submitted. There's been a lot of talent submit their projects, and I have to say what an insane amount of talent we have had submit their films. Now, even though submission is now closed, still visit the Snohomish Film Festival page at www.filmfreeway.com/Snohomish Film Festival. There you can find more information on the festival and to buy tickets for September 9th from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Don't wait to the last minute. I will see you there. Now, before we get into the last set of reviews, there is a cinema podcast that I have praised numerous times on this show. I've been a guest on his show many times, and he is one of my favorite movie podcasters to really geek out over films with. He covers the old, and I cover the new when it comes to film, and that's Antonio over at the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast. If you haven't checked out his show, make sure you do, and do not forget to hit follow and subscribe to his show. Now let's hear from Antonio at the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast now.
The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join me, Antonio Palacios, each week as I guide you through a never-ending sea of obscure cinema and cult-worthy gems that deserve a rediscovery. Find me on all listening platforms and at thecultworthy.com. The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join us.
Stacey Friedman prepares for her bat mitzvah, but her plans comedically unravel and threaten to ruin the event. In yet another Happy Madison production for Netflix is You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah.
My bat mitzvah determines the rest of my life. If I have a kick-ass party, doors would open. And I just think Dua Lipa would make the party perfect.
You can have a ball pit.
That's for kids. I've had my period for 7 months now. now!
That's a long period, sweetheart.
La 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 la. I'm not popular.
What is happening? You look insane.
Slay Queen. I'm not a loser. I look like the lady that pulls kids out of class when their parents get into car accidents.
How often does that happen?
I might be a little obsessed. One day, Andy Goldfarb will be mine, and you will have a cool boyfriend too, and then we'll have a joining Lost in Tribeca in Taylor Swift's building. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. Can you just let me explain, please? No, let me explain to you. We are no longer friends.
Yo, shit just got real.
What's the matter? Something bugging you?
She betrayed me. She kissed my crush, and then he touched her underboob in PE. A, B, C, D, E, F, U.
Oh, underboob. I got plenty of that.
You're not taking this seriously. You used to be such a respectful kid.
I volunteered at the retirement home.
So you could do a mitzvah, or so you could flirt with a boy.
Facts.
Real talk.
I don't know what's happening between you two.
Lydia has long black hairs on her nipples.
You wouldn't happen to know why people keep asking me if they can floss their teeth with my nipple hair. Do you, Stacey?
No.
I know what she needs because I know how she's feeling. She needs to process this herself. I know she hurt you, but I'm sure she misses her best friend.
I'm gonna take that as a maybe. I'm so... I've tried to apologize. When is it enough? Now it's enough. It's too late.
You don't shape up. Your bat mitzvah's gonna be canceled, sis.
Dad, just talk to her. Don't yell.
Gabby! You're a jerk and you won't let me have a mojito bar.
That's why we fought the Nazis!
Is this a bad time?
So you can have a mojito bar!
She's growing up so fast, it's crazy.
I'm drinking now. I tried it the other day. I didn't like it. We're good.
My preparation before watching a new Happy Madison film lately has been as follows. Pour a stiff drink, listen to some motivational TED Talks, and just like we hear in self-narration multiple times in this movie from our main character, I say to myself, dear God, please give me the patience and strength to endure another Netflix Happy Madison production. Now, of course, this is an Adam Sandler movie, and it's no secret that Sandler places his closest friends and at times his family in his films. And I have to say, I do have a certain respect for this to an extent, for why Sandler does this. And why I say to an extent is because it's not always the best decision based on the film he is trying to make. But the moral reasoning behind this does gain my respect as just being a great friend and a great family man. And to me, it does feel like honest intent as we see Sandler want to involve those surrounding him to make his films and still be close to his family and friends. Now, Sandler does have this persona around him where he plays Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Laid Back, and he just seems to include a lot of the people he has fun with in his movies. Now, this doesn't always work in his favor when it comes to casting in his movies, and when it doesn't work, it really shows it doesn't work. But with this movie has to be his biggest film yet to really showcase the Sandler family in his films, with the Sandler name written all over it. Especially with showcasing Adam Sandler's daughter Sadie Sandler in her first big role, and Adam Sandler actually plays her fictional dad, Danny. This is a movie that we can tell was a personal and intimate project for Sandler, with including his daughter Sadie, who plays our main character 13-year-old Ronnie, his wife Jackie, who plays divorcee wife Gabby in the film, and older daughter Sunny Sandler, who plays Ronnie's sister in the movie as well. Now, Sadie Sandler isn't new to taking part of some sort of role in Adam Sandler's films, where she usually has some involvement somewhere in one of his movies, but this is her biggest film to date as the starring role. You were so not invited to my bar mitzvah around Ronnie, a 13-year-old girl, and her friend Lydia, played by Samantha Lorraine, who both attend a yeshiva, a Jewish school, and is preparing for her bar mitzvah to enter adulthood. Now, being Jewish and about to enter adulthood is more than just a celebratory party, but the work of learning and practicing the Torah, then reading from the Torah in front of family and friends. But to a 13-year-old girl, the social event is everything. And of course, trying to convince a 13-year-old otherwise is like trying to convince a 13-year-old that you're a still cool and funny parent to hang out with and be around. As Ronnie has a dream bar mitzvah planned in her head, she also has a boy crush, the most popular boy in school, go figure, and that's Andy Goldfarb, played by Dylan Hoffman. Now things start to unravel as we go into the depths of teenage drama as boys and popularity throw a wrench into the gears of Ronnie and Lydia's relationship. Now here is what I found interesting and special about You Are So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah, is that it goes out of the norm of this type of movie's formula by telling a story surrounding around the Jewish religion, but making it relatable to everybody. It includes relatable topics that those with preteen to teenage daughters can understand, even more so that preteen and teenagers can watch and relate to as well, with still including the Jewish traditions to educate its viewer. The movie does something special, and that's keeping the consistency of tradition to the Jewish community, but not only that, but it keeps consistent with its positive message. And when it comes to the relatability, most of us have been in a situation that we have lost friends or have known friends or been at a conflict with a good friend. And this is where the movie does a really good job at keeping it relatable and not satire situational. With me, I actually found a lot to chuckle about having a daughter myself that some of you may have listened on prior episodes of this show. And she is about Ronnie's age. And here is where writers Alison Peck and Fiona Rosenblum get so much right. We don't hear the dialogue written from the viewpoint of adults, but rather it's quite elementary in a good way, where it feels like actual language we would hear from a 13-year-old girl. And I know this because if I could just go one day without hearing the word slay or slay queen, or as a father being referred to as bruh, I consider that a fantastic day. And the film does have some fun with this, along with having fun with the character of Ronnie's dad, Danny, played by, again, Adam Sandler. The dialogue and direction almost gives us a viewpoint of Ronnie's view of her father at times, because it is so inconsistent, but in a good way. It's a good reflection of Ronnie's emotional state. It's a great representation and a great strategy by the director. When we see Danny through Ronnie's eyes, sometimes he's the sweetest dad that gives his little girl anything. Sometimes he's goofy, sometimes he's completely embarrassing, like an example we get with him going to the movies in a bathrobe and interacting with a group of Ronnie's friends. And then sometimes he has to be the bad guy. And I don't say this often, but Adam Sandler is the best written character in this movie. And that's not to shy away or discredit the written teenage characters of Ronnie and Lydia, but there are times where these girls are put in underwhelming emotional situations, where at times it isn't believable on an emotional teenage level. And Sadie does a fantastic job for her first big role to carry a movie. But this is also where Adam Sandler is at his best, where he tackles the more serious role. And don't get me wrong, Sandler was funny in some of his earlier stuff, but his execution in recent films has been, well, how do I put it, god-awful. And this movie is another great example that this shows that Sandler is at his best when he is in more serious roles at this time of his life. When he is in a serious role like this, there is a new level of screen presence and likability to Sandler, and we see this prominent and noticeable here. Now, as I said earlier, when it comes to the stereotypical situation these girls are in, as I was watching, I was reminiscing about when my daughter comes home from middle school, and I have to hear about the boy drama, the girl drama. I have to hear about these relatable situations that I'm actually seeing in the movie. But here's where the movie kind of falls flat when it comes to handling these situations. When it comes to facing the situations and the conflicts, it plays it too safe, and the emotional impact seems to have hit the brakes at times, especially when it comes to the use of social media that is extremely prominent in today's teens. We do see the use of social media, but only when the movie needed a way to push the story along. It just uses the social media topic to use it as a plot-driving tool instead of how it actually does affect the outcome of the situation. Now, as I said before, Sadie Sadler and Samantha Lorraine have a great chemistry and a believable friendship. Where we start to sing a lingering fault is between the Sandler family. Having a father and his two daughters in the movie playing father and daughter, one would think that the chemistry wouldn't be in question here. But it almost feels like a hesitancy of really showing their emotional vulnerability side to each other on screen. It feels unnatural at times and to an extent awkward during conflicted scenes or emotional scenes where we can sense that this isn't the norm for the Sandler family. And this is where we can kind of see a fault in newcomer director Sammy Cohen, who doesn't really catch the subtle hints of awkwardness in the character direction. But at least she captures the proper tone of the movie consistently and is smart by not changing the tone or feel when the film starts to get serious. And because of the misguided character direction, the performances do come off a little awkward. more prominently in the second half of the movie, and this is where it starts to feel like a generic knockoff of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, where we have Ronnie start to self-narrate herself, starting with Dear God. But the first half of the movie, we don't have it. It starts to feel a little off balance at this point. In a way, this almost throws off the feel of the movie just a tad. With Dear God, It's Me, Margaret, it felt like a genuine human reaction, an emotional reaction. But when we have it in this movie and only hear it in the second half where Ronnie is struggling with numerous situations in which she created, it almost comes across as selfish to her persona. And even though likable, this is where I started to question if we should even like the Ronnie character. We start to question all events from the first half of the movie. You Are So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah has a lot of smart and good moments and is a sweet enough film for teenagers and adults to watch together and still be entertained and find relatable. But the problem we have with this during the first half of the movie, it seems like the intent of being a Jewish teenage coming-of-age story, and then it actually in the second half falls into the trap of situational predictability and seems like a scrapbook from other teenage rom-coms that we have seen before. But for one of the more recent Happy Madison films, this is one of the better ones. I'm giving You Are So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah a marginal miss at 2.5 stars. It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. An alien scarab chooses college graduate Jaime Reyes to be a symbiotic host, bestowing the teenager with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary and unpredictable powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero known as Blue Beetle.
Excuse me, Mr. Reyes? You finished scraping the gum off that lounger or what?
Everything right now feels so out of reach.
You always land on your feet, bro. You're Jaime.
They don't get out much.
I just want to rap.
Jenny?
God, that's no life. But do not open it.
You went in to get us jobs, and all you brought back was a hamburger?
Okay, I don't think it's a burger.
You haven't looked?
What the hell is that?
How did you get it to do that?
I think he likes me.
Jaime.
This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want. What the?
You
host acquired.
Who said that? It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Space.
Re-entry systems ready.
Wait, no. This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want.
What is going on?
I just want to rap.
It's called the Scarab. It's some kind of world-destroying weapon. It's designed to protect its host.
This ain't what you want.
Sometimes it does what you want, and sometimes it doesn't.
I think I cut a bus in half.
The Scarab chose you, but it belongs to me.
That low you feel for your family makes you weak.
I just want to rap. You won't kill my dog, stand on my money, don't lose my side.
The universe has sent you a gift, and you have to figure out what you're gonna do with it.
That's my mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, throw up to 5.
Whatever you can imagine, I can create.
Let's party.
Yeah!
Nice choice.
I just want to rap.
It's like Batman stuff.
Batman's a fascist.
I just want to rap.
Now, I am torn with this movie. During its entire runtime, Blue Beetle took me through a roller coaster of likes and dislikes. As I walked out of my first viewing out of the 2 viewings I attended, I was asked what I thought before I even got a foot out the door to our theater. I simply shrugged my shoulders and I reluctantly said, I don't know. And on the way home, I pondered this movie and thought, for a superhero movie, this shouldn't be this hard for what it is to decide if I like it or not. And I really couldn't decide if I just really wanted to like this movie or the fact the film wasn't clear enough to enjoy it. So I attended another showing, and it hit me the one thing that was holding up my emotional decision for this film. It was the mere fact that our supporting characters, more specifically our Blue Beetle's Jaime Reyes family, is so infectious and so good that I didn't have the heart to really dislike this movie. I felt even a level of guilt by even thinking or stating the flaws with this movie that I would disappoint the Reyes family. And this is where lies the problem, is that this is a superhero movie about an underdog that inherits alien superpowers. And the first thing I took away from this movie is the supporting family, and the second is the one with the superpowers. And I don't think that this was the intent from the filmmakers, and I don't think this is the normal feeling or structure that this kind of movie was shooting for, where we have yet another superhero spectacle and the superhero is the least interesting part of the movie. Well, that's only if you strip away the special effects, that is. You take away the special effects and the actual character behind the mask is just simply boring. Blue Beetle is truly at its best when it sticks to its character relationships, which as the movie goes on, it leans on this strength of the character and family dynamic, and it starts to show what new writer Gareth Dunn Alcazor realizes halfway through what she was writing. It's like she got a burst of motivation from writing this family dynamic and made this the focal point of the story she wanted to tell. It's like she had an epiphany in the middle of writing this story, where she really started to enjoy writing about this family, and not just the same old superhero stereotypical formula, but rather adding value of the topic of strength through family and tremendous heart. That ends up being quite sweet and at times adventurous because we actually care about this family, and not just our superpowered superhero. Blue Beetle surrounds our main character Jaime Reyes, played by Solo Marduena, who comes home after graduating college, only to realize a job isn't that easy right out of college and is forced to take a job working with his family alongside his sister Milagro, played by Melissa Escobedo, cleaning houses. This is where he meets Jenny Cord, played by Bruna Marquesine, the niece of our main villain Victoria Cord, played by the lovely Susan Sarandon, in a role that seems a little out of her norm. Jaime and Milagro are cleaning Victoria Cord's house when Jenny offers Jaime a possible job. Jaime takes Jenny up on her offer and then inherits our alien device that will turn Jaime into the Blue Beetle. Now, it wouldn't be a superhero movie without a lot of visual effects, and the effects here are pleasing, but they're not jaw-dropping. What really helps support the visuals here is the actual tone, colors, and almost a 90s nostalgic feel. While watching Blue Beetle, superhero movies from the 90s kept popping into my head, such as The Phantom, The Shadow, even the silliness of Star Kid, and the disastrous Shaquille O'Neal movie Steel. But more prominently, the movie that kept popping into my head is 1993's Meteor Man, which also focused on the family and community dynamic. I could almost feel a true inspiration from Meteor Man and Blue Beetle, from Jaime Reyes discovering his powers, educated, likable, along with being a subtle character, and his commitment to his family and community. Now, there's a lot of nostalgic kisses in Blue Beetle for those that have viewed those superhero movies from the 90s. It uses the colors, the tones, the music to encourage that nostalgic feeling. And this is where Blue Beetle really triggers that X factor, seeing the flaws but being okay with ignoring them because of how the film covers it up with a fantastic supporting cast and fantastic utilization of color and feel. Blue Beetle was directed by Angel Manuel Soto, and this is yet another recent example of a director that knows how to balance, have fun, and transcribe this material to a sense of feeling of fun and present it to the screen. And Soto never really takes it too seriously, but rather understands that this story is basic. The characters are written simplistic, and with Soto's sense of color and character direction, his intent is just to have some fun with this story and these characters. Now, of course, Blue Beetle is extremely flawed, but I have to give credit where credit is due. to a new director that really utilizes his eye to do his best to an attempt to compensate for the amount of flaws we see, with an element of true color factor when it comes to the overall feel. The combination of the colors, tone, simplistic conflict, and the generic villain with a generic motivation really brought out the 90s kid in me. And this is where it brings up the flaws are really open for interpretation if you want to take it as flaws. This isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea when it comes to a superhero movie. But I'm not saying that all these elements work, because they don't. The main element that is really flawed is our main villain, Victoria, again played by Susan Sarandon. Now, there is no question that Sarandon is a talented actress, but the problem we have with her character in Blue Beetle is that it's written without any depth and little to no knowledge or background to really care about who she is and what she has planned. During the runtime, there really isn't any real threat that we feel from her, nor her motivations. Sarandon tries to make do with what she has and interprets the character as simplistic and subtle as the written material presents to her. But the written character needed much, much more, even more so if the villain is going to be a fantastic actress like Susan Sarandon. Sarandon really needed a more complex or beefier character to portray to really have her show her range in this new territory for her. The final result we get is one of the most bland comic book villains that we have seen on screen, and left me with a real feel of disappointment, dread, and dissatisfaction leaving the theater. Even to the point where we reach the climax where we get the final showdown, if you will. I just shook my head and thought to myself, what a waste of a good actress in a poorly written role. To the point it almost felt like her character was thrown in or even pointless to have in the movie. The character didn't add anything of value or threat, especially against a guy in an alien armor suit. Blue Beetle has so many lows, then highs, then lows again. While the family dynamic is spot on and fun, especially George Lopez, who plays Jaime's conspiracy theory-driven uncle, Rudy, the main driver of this movie is the fantastic performances from the Reyes family. It's truly the element that holds this movie together, and not the hero nor the villain. Blue Beetle, to its credit, is a very entertaining film, and though it really does have some elementary simple fun with itself at times, it comes across like someone is reading you a children's book and can be too simplistic for its own good. But it's hard to resist some of the elements that director Soto brings to the table. Now, Blue Beetle isn't a bad movie, and it's a slight improvement over some of the stuff we've gotten recently. And to be honest, I will be revisiting this again, and it will be one of those movies I can pop on the TV just before I fall asleep, just to have something in the background or something pretty to look at as I drift to sleep. I'm giving Blue Beetle a slight miss and a reluctant but deserving, for all the right reasons, 2.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits of a movie to show the respect for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.